Hey everyone, and welcome. So today we're cracking open a book that has seriously taken the world by storm. We're doing an explainer on Matt Haig's incredible bestseller, The Midnight Library. Okay, let's just jump straight in with a big one, a question that I bet has crossed your mind 1,000 times. What if? What if you could undo your regrets? Go back, make a different call, and see what would have happened. It's a huge thought, right? And honestly, it's the beating heart of this entire story. So who gets to live out this crazy what-if scenario? Well, meet Nora Seed. She's our main character, and for her, life feels like this giant pile of wrong turns and missed chances. She is just absolutely buried under the weight of it all. All right, so this section is all about her library of regrets. Before we get to the magic, we really have to get a sense of where Nora is at when the book kicks off, because it's pretty dark. Basically, Nora's hit rock bottom. I mean, after one thing after another goes wrong, both in her personal life and career, she just feels completely empty. Like her whole existence has amounted to, well, nothing. And in that moment of total despair, she decides to end her life. But, and this is a huge but, what happens next isn't the end. Not even close. It's the start of something amazing. Yeah, so instead of the end, she finds a new beginning. And this right here is where the story gets really cool and enters this kind of magical territory. She lands in a place called the Midnight Library. Just picture it. It's this otherworldly, almost infinite library that exists somewhere between life and death. And every single book on every single shelf, that's a different life she could have lived. Each one the result of one tiny, different choice she could have made along the way. And you know what? She's not on her own in this weird, amazing place. She's got a guide, and it's this wonderful, comforting presence from her childhood, her old-school librarian, Mrs. Elm. She's the one who kind of lays down the ground rules and shows Nora how to find her way through this maze of infinite lives. So, the big question is, what do you do in a library full of your other lives? Well, this is where the fun really begins. Nora gets to try them on for size, to literally test drive the lives she always fantasized about. And oh, the lives she tries. Each one is tied to a specific regret. One minute, she's a global rock star, living the life she gave up when her band fell apart. The next, bam, she's an Olympic swimmer, fulfilling a dream that was more her dad's than her own. But it's not all glamour. She also tries out quieter lives, like being a wife, owning a cozy little cafe. She even becomes a glaciologist in the Arctic. Every time she picks a book, she's dropped right into the middle of a whole new reality. But here's the thing. This isn't just some fun adventure, hopping from life to life. As Nora goes through all these different versions of herself, she starts to figure out some really deep, fundamental truths about what it actually means to be alive. And this is where we get to one of the biggest takeaways of the whole book. Nora quickly learns that those perfect lives she dreamed of, the ones with all the fame, the money, the big shiny achievements, they aren't actually the happiest, not at all. What she finds over and over again is that real happiness, real meaning, it's usually hiding in the small stuff, those tiny, quiet moments of joy and connection. And that leads to this huge realization. There is no perfect life. It just doesn't exist. Every single path, no matter how amazing it seems from a distance, has its own baggage, its own struggles, its own heartaches, its own regrets. That whole idea of a life without any problems, it's a total illusion. And watching Nora figure all this out, it's just incredible. She starts to see how her choices, even the small ones, rippled out and affected other people, way more than she ever thought. She realizes she totally underestimated her own impact. And her whole idea of what it means to be a failure, it gets completely turned on its head. But maybe the most important thing she learns is that her first life, the one she was so desperate to escape, it actually had so much potential waiting for her. Okay, so with all of that incredible stuff packed in, what's the final call? Let's get into the reviewer's verdict and break down what worked and what maybe didn't work as well. All right, so the strengths are pretty clear, right? The premise is just fantastic, super engaging, it's got a ton of emotional depth, and it delivers this really powerful, hopeful message. Now, on the other hand, the review does point out a few things that might not land for everyone. Some people might find the themes get a little repetitive. The philosophy, while heartfelt, might feel a little simplistic to others. And yeah, you might see the ending coming, but even with all that, the reviewer says it's still a really satisfying conclusion. So, what's the final number? Well, it gets a massive 4.5 out of 5. The reviewer absolutely loved it, calling it a beautifully heartwarming novel. So, should you read it? Well, if you love a good emotional story, something with a bit of philosophical reflection that, really makes you think, and if you want a book that will leave you feeling genuinely uplifted, then yeah, this one is absolutely for you. And that just about wraps up our explainer, but I really want to leave you with one last question to chew on. Imagine it's you in that library. You're standing there, surrounded by all the lives you could have lived. What's the first book you reach for? Which what if do you just have to know the answer to? Something to think about.